Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hashira Half Hour. I am back. I feel like I haven't been here for like forever, and I've just missed a lot of days lately, but I'm here. And I'm actually going to start today with a PSA. Please stop posting manga spoilers. This includes manga panels, manga cosplays, etc., without a spoiler tag. Come on, y'all. Come on. We've been doing this for a long time. You should know to not post a spoiler without a spoiler tag, especially for manga that just came out. I unfortunately got spoiled on the big Ghetto reveal of today's episode literally 4 days ago, so I'm a little bit bitter. But it is what it is. I'm Hana, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm joined by my two friends as always.
This episode did things to me. And to be honest, I wasn't ready for it. Like, I knew I liked Gojo. But this cemented a lot of things for me. So I'll let Emily have the limelight here, so...
How to keep this intro PG-13 and under. Alright. That's probably all I should say, and just call it there. This episode cemented some things, as Bryan said, melted some others. And also agreed with Hana, like, Hana is so sweet and is probably more hopeful than me. I have no faith in you people to not put spoilers on this. So maybe prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You people love to prove people wrong. I'm just kidding. Our listeners are the best. I know that you all are good people. So please don't post spoilers.
Yes. Our listeners are the best people. They're into the cool stuff, and they don't post spoilers on social media without spoiler tags. You can post spoilers, just put like a little thing. It's like, hey, manga spoilers ahead, please. Then those of us can know to just scroll. Anyway, all right, back into the episode because what an episode! My goodness gracious. We started out with like an interview segment, which honestly had me feeling a little emotional. I don't know if it's just like, you know, that time of month for me or whatnot, but I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, this is kind of like sad and cute and like, aw. But our wonderful Jujutsu High students are asked, what do you think of Gojo Satoru? Each one of them had their own unique answers, and of course it all led to Yuji saying he's the strongest. We keep hearing that over and over again. So which one stood out to you most, and what do you think of the episode opening this way, especially with, you know, how the events unfolded in this episode?
Who did I like? I love hearing from Yuji. He's a sweet boy. Megumi's response was pretty funny here too, where he's like, he's my benefactor. What else do you want? I don't want... Get this camera out of my face.
Those are the vibes.
But this was definitely a choice to begin this episode this way. The other thing that I have to say about that is, gay, count your days. Because there's a lot going on the internet. Again, do not post spoilers. Do not post spoilers. But there was some very opportune timing this week. And this just like really, really felt like really heart-shattering to see, knowing what is happening simultaneously in some of the newest chapters of the manga, but then also like for people who have read the manga before and knew what was coming in this episode, as little as we wanted to see it, like we knew that it was coming, or for the anime onlys, like you've seen it now. So this is like a really dark way to foreshadow what's coming next using content that's actually very light and very sweet. So JJK is really good at that. It was a good opening, but it is really sad.
Yeah, this reminded me almost of the season 1 closing theme a little bit. And I would like to kind of call back to something that Emily said in like the hidden inventory arc when she was talking about how like people are ragging on the animation and they're like, it's a flashback. And yeah, I would like to think that this is something similar where they're using this very lighthearted thing kind of with like some of the tones of the screen and the haze of it. It's like a nice little piece there. The person that spoke to me most was Inumaki. When he said salmon, I felt that personally. I took that personally.
That hit me in my soul.
No, but I think kind of the reason why is because Maki was being like, that man's literally a cocky ass. And he was like, salmon. If you didn't know, salmon is his word for agreement. And sometimes one word is all you need to say literally parallels and mountains. So honestly, I do agree with Maki, though. Like, I love my cocky man, but also at the same time, Kendrick Lamar said it, sit down, be humble.
He did say that. I heard it. I heard it. Wait, Hannah, which one was your favorite?
I liked Maki. He's an idiot. Baka I also loved Megumi being like, he's my benefactor, because everyone's like, even I'm like, that's your dad, like, he is your father, you know, especially after we saw the hidden inventory arc. I was like, and he says benefactor.
What a choice of words. I realize now, after you both just said that I left off Hanami, who I love, and his reaction to Gojo is just always funny, because they're like, well, now we know they've known each other for a really, really long time and are also classmates and probably have kind of a similar dynamic to like our main little trio. But yeah, his was funny too. But he's always going to be like, huh?
What did he say?
He said like that man doesn't take anything seriously, something like that. But when it comes down to it, and then like it cut to like Yuji, I think, something like that. I have to watch it again, but we've seen their interactions. We know that Gojo's a goofball and Nanami's not. So
they're the golden retriever and the black cat.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah, I thought it was really well done, that whole little montage at the beginning, setting us up for quite the Gojo centric episode. I mean, we really don't leave him for the entire duration. So, side note, heavy breathing Gojo. Twice this episode, they give it to us right before the opening credits, and then they give it to us again in the timeline later on in the episode. Mappa knows what they're doing, am I right?
Listen, when I say I'd like to be breathing heavy with Gojo, I am not lying. Listen, okay? The other time they did it, when they were panning out and he had no eyes, but it was just like, and they were zooming out, I was like, oh. I was like, damn. I'm gonna stop talking.
You are so real for that one, Bryan. I think that, like, collectively, all of us are like, oh my god. And somebody in our lives needs to be like, it's just a bunch of lines. Like, you need to calm down. But then they see the screen and they're like, oh. And then they need somebody to tell them it's a bunch of lines. They saved all of their budget for, like, mark my words, no one else is gonna look so pretty for maybe ever in the rest of the show. I think all of the budget was for this, for good reason, because the episode doesn't end super well. We'll get there later, but like we need to get as much and as high quality HD, not 1080, whatever's higher than that. We need all of that good Gojo juice before the rest of the season. Sorry.
How did you get Gojo juice? I'd like some.
Me too.
That was like when Noah said Red Goku's inside me. I wanted to say jealous.
Y'all need to stop.
I will not. Hannah, I will not calm down.
Yeah, I'm contributing to this, but TikTok and Instagram is blowing up with the simping for Gojo memes, and some of them are getting a little out of hand. I'll be real. But you know what? I feel like this could be our last episode with him for a while, so we gotta savor every second of it. But all right, let's get through the episode, shall we? So, super heavy episode, lots of fighting. You know, it is JJK. We got some good fight scenes going on. So, while Gojo is fighting Jogo, this is gonna be hard for me to say. Gojo versus Jogo. Like, can we make it a little bit less confusing, please? Hanami did. Let me just start that over. Yeah. Hanami does it. I'm struggling, okay?
You're thinking about Gojo too much.
Hanami deduces we're gonna just leave that in. That was candid. That Gojo is not using Limitless and attempts to use their own technique against him, but Gojo continues to be the strongest. As Jogo mentions, he is fighting well, even though he's using very limited curse technique and only really fighting, with the limits and just like the martial arts due to the humans just packed in. I thought this was interesting because I've always felt that Gojo is the strongest because of, his limitless technique, his 6 eyes, whatever's going on with that. But he continues to dominate the fight with extremely limited techniques. He then goes on to destroy Hanami and looks absolutely crazy while doing it. Jogo even attempts to get his attention by threatening to kill all the humans around them, but Gojo doesn't even give him the time of day. So how do you think this develops Gojo further?
He's a crazy bitch.
Oh my god.
He is. I mean, they gave us some wild facial expressions from him in this part, and Gege actually even came out and commented, and they're like, wow, they made Gojo look so much scarier and cooler than I did. Very nice. Yeah, I also thought in some sick way this scene was kind of funny also because of Jogo, because Jogo is like, look, I'm gonna take these guys out with my fire over here, and not only does Gojo not respond at all, but as you see, and he's not even doing anything really, by the way, he's literally just taking steps with this presence, and that ends up completely obliterating Hanami. Without him ever, he literally doesn't lift a finger. He just takes a couple of his crazy boy steps over, and Hanami explodes on the spot. And while this is going on, Jogo is just slowly lowering his hand and is like, "Oh my god!" And in some I'm sure in some, if they're friends, I don't know if curses can really be friends, but if he had any affinity for Hanami at all, I don't even think that he's worried about that right this minute as much as he's realizing what Gojo is capable of, because we've seen how strong Hanami is also, and Gojo just took it out like it was nothing. Yeah, it's an indication of how strong he really is without even having to lift a finger.
The look in that man's eyes as he literally used the force to push Hanami into the wall, and he held it for a second. He didn't do it all the way. He didn't just ram right into the wall like he could have. He let Hanami sit there for a hot second. You want to talk about, maybe he's, thinking about the humans that are dying at the same time. He also is literally holding Hanami against the wall for fun. It's like a predator playing with its food. And it's honestly kind of scary because, damn, how powerful do you have to be after seeing what we saw in Season 1 against Hanami, where, oh god, his name escapes me, Besto Friendo and Yuji are trying to fight him, and they're, struggling. Just think about that. But the development here, I think, is kind of difficult because it's very similar to something in Naruto in the war, and Emily knows what I'm talking about. I'll deal with you later. Realistically, he has to make the choice of what is more prevalent, right? What's the bigger deal? Do I let these very powerful entities run wild, or do I try and do something about this and possibly lose lives in the process? What's the greater sacrifice to make? To save this small pool of people, or let what happens beyond me explode? And I think that's a very tough question for anyone to answer, but even the cursed spirits themselves gave that context of he's capable of doing things Yuji isn't, and he's different from that in that way.
Yeah, this whole fight felt very a battle of wits, because we'll talk about this in a minute, but, we're seeing both sides. We're seeing Gojo's thought process throughout it. We're seeing Geto talking through it, Mahito, Jogo, Hanami. We're seeing them all talk through it, and they're like, okay, planning this. But at this point in the fight, Gojo keeps surprising them and keeps doing things that they're not really expecting. And when he pulls Hanami's horns out of his head or whatever, and he was all like, yo, why? I was like, okay. He said this is your weak point or something, and everyone was just like, Gojo, I need you to chill, but I also don't need you to chill, because I like this.
We're all like, for what it's worth, all of me is my weak point. And then we remember he is lines.
He is literally just lines. It's so sad. Anyway. So we kind of like cutscene into this game that Geto, Mahito, Jogo, and Hanami are playing a little bit previous to this fight. And Geto is talking about the prison realm. And I could be wrong on this, but I feel like this is the first time he's mentioned it. Maybe he mentioned it a couple episodes ago, but he's like explaining the rules of how this fight needs to go down. They have to keep him within 4 meters of the box for 1 minute. And it kind of made sense to me as soon as they explained that what the fight was really going to turn into, because Jogo was trying to do just that with the help of Choso, which I haven't gotten to talk about Choso yet. I don't know what to think of him. I just know that a lot of people like him. Is that like another Doma thing? I don't know. We'll see. He's got blood arrows, ? They continue to attempt to survive against Gojo long enough to just keep him in this area, I believe. So what do you think of this plan?
I mean, it's a bold strategy to try and maintain Gojo, right? Killing Gojo, one thing, right? Like, yes, it's easy to try and, like, find a weak point and exploit that. To be able to exploit the weak point to where you can capture it, that's even more difficult because you want it alive almost at that point. To try and think of a way to do that without losing many of, I guess, what we would call Geto's pawns at this point is extremely difficult because within the first few minutes, we already see, Hanami get taken out very easily. So Choso and Jogo are kind of screwed at that point. It's really up to them to put something together. And Jogo even made the remark, if you're not going to help Choso, I'm going to kill you myself. And he had to try and clap some blood arrows out, which didn't even do anything. So realistically, it is a very tough plan.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, it's very risky because I do think that there is a very real possibility that their plan might not work, knowing that Gojo is the opponent that they have. So even if this is the closest shot and all of the conditions are perfect, I think that's what Jogo is feeling in some of these scenes because Hanami just got taken out like nothing, and Gojo's just like, you're next. So even containing him for a minute seems like an impossibly long amount of time. Like, for them, this is probably feeling like those Hunter x Hunter episodes where 5 seconds passed and it was like 30 episodes. As much as I love Hunter x Hunter, like, that's like probably how they're feeling. Like, and 0.7 seconds have passed. And Gojo is like wiping people out left and right. And like for Jogo, this is the apocalypse. So it's like, but like that's what they're asking these two to hold back. And even though we've seen that they're strong, they're probably not the strongest. So it's risky.
Well, we know who the strongest is, and they're fighting against him.
That's true.
Gojo's face as soon as he finished Hanami and looked at Jogo was probably the most like crazed, I feel like, of the episode, because he was just like feral, like you're coming next, and he's like throwing these people at him, and it was Gojo's technique that was like making these people like freeze around him, right? Like freeze in midair. I was understanding that correctly. Every time I host when we talk about JJK, I'm exposing myself and my lack of understanding of the power structure. It seems like an impossible task for them. And I feel like Jogo is pretty much saying that after like Hanami gets destroyed, he's like kind of getting desperate, but Mahito does join, and Geto is somewhere looking very calm and smiling and evil. But we also cut to Yuji finding a person all alone, and she states that everyone in that area was turned into a monster and loaded onto a train, and then she turns into one herself and seemingly, I believe, just dies from the transformation. This is very quick because we like go right back to Gojo, and the train is arriving, giving these humans this sense of relief that are trapped there. They think it's freedom. But it's now a total shit show. I feel like this is where things start to really go awry. Like we felt like Gojo is just completely wiping the floor up until now, but he seems like pretty rattled by the situation here. Mahito declares humans are disgusting because there are too many. Bryan, I'm slightly judging you that you like Mahito so much. I'm kidding. Choso is literally like killing groups of people left and right. We get this like chilling exposition from Geto and Jogo explaining that Gojo will be willing to exercise or to sacrifice humans in order to exercise the enemies. So he's not like Yuji. He's not going to try and protect everyone. He's more willing to, you know, understand that there's going to be a sacrifice, but they're still trying to back him into a corner to the point where he has to use his domain expansion Infinite Void. But can Gojo be willing to sacrifice humans? Like, he's willing to sacrifice the humans. Is he willing to kill people himself?
I think if the situation were extraordinarily desperate, he might just do what he needed to do and think about it on like a very large term scale. Like I do see him like dealing in absolutes like that, where, and I don't feel that that's the case right now, and I don't think that he feels that way either. He's had a pretty easy time so far, so even though they're backing him into like a corner, the corner is still like in this subway station. It's not the corner of the world. So like, if it came down to it, would he choose to maybe like sacrifice the people in this subway station if it was going to save the rest of the planet? Probably. I do think he would probably do that. I don't think it's gotten to that level of desperation yet in this fight. So I do think that he probably doesn't feel too strongly about any of the transfigured humans, but I do think that like if there's a way for him to avoid killing as many innocent bystanders as possible, like he will try to look for that way, because he is the strongest, and while he is cocky, he is incredibly intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Emily said, I don't think he's gonna just jump to that. That's really like one of the final moves, right, for any hero realistically, is to, okay, well, these people are in my way. Kind of like the last episode, I think it was Geto who was talking about Gojo is at his weakest when he is surrounded by other people. They are his limiters. So the problem that stands with him now is he has to use a technique, or he's being limited on how he can use the technique that affects pretty much everyone in his radius. So it's a very tough predicament. And of course, right, Gojo is someone who, yes, very cocky, very, extroverted on the surface, but still is someone who has like internal values. And we've seen the like paradigm shift from him from when he was in the hidden inventory arc saying like we should kill everyone in this room, to no, Geto being the one saying you have to have a purpose. And would that purpose of being able to justify saving the planet, be that purpose to kill? Probably. But like Emily said, I don't think he's there yet. I think he's trying to really exhaust options and minimize damage at this point while still trying to come out of this fight alive.
Yeah. And he has an idea up his sleeve. And he even mentions, as Jogo's like throwing the humans at him, he's like, the ones that can't see cursed energy are starting to back off from me because they're getting scared of me. And he was like, that's good. Like, that gives me more room. So like, he's still thinking through a lot of things. But like right after this, he does stun Jogo and Mahito with using domain expansion Infinite Void. Even my mouth was wide open at this point as I was watching, because I was not expecting this. I was like, he's not gonna, like, if his domain expansion just kills any humans inside, then he's not gonna do that. He's gonna figure out something else. Like, as an anime only, like, this was one of those moments where I was like, this shocked me. It's explained, however, that and again, feel free to fact check me at any point in time, but he has set a limit of 0.2 of a second, as he believed that's how long the humans could withstand being inside Infinite Void without turning into a vegetable or dying. And during this time, he focuses completely on killing the transformed humans. So let's talk about that sequence real quick, because this was one of the highlights of the episode for me.
Before I start talking about my man, I want to backtrack just a little bit. Mahito rolling up on scene, being like, I have all the transfigured humans with me. That was a serve. I get to own that piece. So, thank you, Mahito. Now, watching Gojo do the Naruto run, one of my favorite things today. Gotta give it to him. Gege, Mappa, thank you so much for giving me that. I can only imagine. Also, just hearing them all say jutsu, because jutsu is like technique, I believe, at this point. I've inferred that. Also giving me Naruto vibes. But watching this happen, and the main thing that stuck with me is that they had 6 months of information jammed into their heads within 0.2 of a second. Like, that's crazy. Like, to think about infinite void and whatever that information means, because I'm current. I just haven't read the leaks of what comes next for the chapter. No one tell me about it. But, like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I'm still wondering, like, what is the information that they got? Did they get, like, time expansion into their head? Like, what went on? Nonetheless, watching him just knock curses out left and right, like, quoting Tom, left, right, good night, dude. Like, seriously. Oh my god, it was so beautiful. And of course, right, I know people are going to say something about the dimming. They still did amazing. Look at him. He literally flew around like an entire train station like it was nothing. And even after, like, more people were just flooded in because Mahito broke the tree barrier that was holding them back. Like, he literally did the absolute best. There was nothing else you could have asked from Gojo. Oh, my god.
This scene was absolutely incredible. I'll even go on record and say this a little bit early in this episode. I do think that this is like one of the best episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. This is probably one of the better anime episodes that I've seen also if I was going to do a ranking. And a lot of it is because of like how crazy this scene is. Like just yeah, even like you can't even wrap your brain around that because it's not really like a statistic that's fathomable. So seeing Gojo like move so swiftly and again, like, to agree and echo Bryan here, just your daily reminder that the dimming and the blurring and all that stuff that's going on with these episodes is not because of Mappa. I don't know why that's the version that's like getting sent to Crunchyroll, but it's the broadcast version. They have to do that like by law. So you will catch me buying the Blu-ray for this season because I want to see it. But somebody on Twitter, I think, took a stab at like undimming this, and I thought it looked insane anyway. Even, you know, with those like slight handicaps to the animation, seeing the version that they took a stab at and what we might get to see when the Blu-ray comes out is like even more mind-boggling in both like the concept of it and again like trying to wrap your brain around what this could even possibly mean and how quickly he is moving to make this happen. And then like just the feat of the animation as well, like by this studio, and seeing like what we are capable of getting now on TV is just so cool. What a great scene. And of course, I'm not surprised that he was able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this was quite the sequence and how fast he was moving as it's explaining the limits and everything. I was definitely on the edge of my seat and very interested in what was going to happen. And I didn't notice the dimming the first time I watched it. Like, honestly, I don't really notice it. I did notice it a little bit. I didn't get to talk about the previous episode because I wasn't here. I did notice it a little bit more with Yuji versus that, like, bug-like thing. But that was the only time I could, like, pinpoint it right off the bat. We've already talked about this, and something that we try not to do ever on this show is ever put down any animation or anything like that, because this is people's hard work, and this isn't even the animation. This is just something that, like, I think the Japanese laws are requiring them to do when they broadcast it for some reason. So, you know, every time I see discourse about it, I'm like, this is like a really silly thing that people are talking about on Twitter, because it's like there's nothing we can do about it. This is not like anyone's fault, but like whatever, you know, whoever is in charge of laws of broadcast in Japan, I guess that's who we need to go after. You know.
Fun fact.
I mean, we want it to be accessible, though. Like, when it comes down to it, like, if you're really getting mad, then it means there would be a whole subset of the population that can't watch it.
Exactly.
And personally, I'm like, I'm okay to wait for the Blu-ray or for a different version to be uploaded so that everyone can watch it that wants to.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. I don't know.
It's not a hot take, because this actually all started back when Pokemon was released. This actually happened in the Porygon episode. If you didn't know, Porygon is a Pokemon that is blue and red. Blue and red being some of the main colors, also inducing seizures. So, and during that episode, Porygon was, I think, either going through an evolution or was just using a move that continually flashed the screen with blue and red at the same times, and people were having seizures. The episode is actually now banned and very difficult to find on the internet.
Interesting.
Well, there you go. I think
History.
I feel like that needs to. I think the discourse about it needs to end on social media, and I know it's not going to, because people like go on social media to argue for some reason. I really don't know why, but because it's not fun. It's not like, you know, I go on social media to like enjoy myself, not get into arguments with people, but I guess other people want to do other things. So overall, this was like a really amazing sequence. And one thing that I noticed, I don't know if I just didn't understand what was happening or if it was a weird translation, but when it finished, it said he did it all in 299 seconds. I don't know if you caught that. I was confused by that. Do you know, did it actually take him 299 seconds to do that, or was it supposed to be like 0.299 seconds?
So, Emily, chime in on this if I'm wrong, but I think what it is that time in a domain expansion passes differently from what it is in the real world. So opening for 0.2 seconds of time in a domain is different. I could honestly be very wrong about that. We would probably need another, like, if you know anything about why it was 299, please let us know. But that's my best guess.
That was what I understood it to be too. So
Okay.
If we're wrong, then we're wrong together.
Yeah, I was just a little bit confused by that. I was like, wait, we were just talking about 0.2 seconds. Like, it made me go back and be like, wait, they said 0.2 seconds, right? But 299. Okay, whatever. You know what? I'm still learning how things work, so that's what I figured. It's just like, I don't know how it works. Well, we get our second close-up. Arigato, mappa, arigato. Of Gojo breathing. It, you know, just another little, here you go, here's your little simp card. And then after that, honestly, this had me tearing up. One of the most emotional moments in the entire show for me so far, because someone who seems like Geto shows up and opens the prison realm, and Gojo, like, kind of freezes. There are a few big story points right here in this next, like, 5 minutes of the episode that I want to talk about, but let's first talk about the tugging of our heartstrings. Right after we get through, you know, the hidden inventory arc, we learn about their background, and the heartstrings are getting tugged on what seems to be a very fated reunion between Geto and Gojo.
I have already said in this episode, to Gege, count your days. I raise another threat to, this time to Mappa. As much as I love everybody that works there and I appreciate their hard work, count your days. Because did anybody else catch the song, the piano song that was playing in this moment as Gojo stands in disbelief, trying to make sense of what he's seeing and what he knows to be fact? The piano reprise that is playing is a version of the OP of the hidden inventory arc. And immediately I'm looking at Tom. I'm like, no, they're not doing this. They're not doing this to us right now, because that was such a short arc, like, if you think about it, and yet it feels like there's so much packed into there. And it was, you know, I think they even like alluded to this very directly. It's the last time he was happier that he felt like a normal person. They have so much love for each other, regardless of what kind of love you want to infer happened between those two, like, over the course of that blue period in Gojo's life. And like, so to bring that song back at this moment and have him, people pointed out, like, there was the beginning of a tiny little smile, even though he knows that Geto is dead. He saw that. He caused that. That was wrong. That was wrong of y'all. But it was so good. That immediately just, like, had me very deep in my feels. Count your days. So,
Man, I don't know how else I can add to that, but realistically, I mean, knowing that this was going to happen, I think they enacted this perfectly from the manga, because I remember seeing the look on Gojo's face in the manga and being like, oh shit, he is bewildered at this point. And knowing that Gojo did what he did because he knew what he needed to do at that time, and now this is where he stands in front of something that he thought was done for is, I mean, shocking, of course. There's no way that you could go through everything that you went through from being we are the strongest, killing that person after breaking up outside the KFC, and then all of a sudden they appear in front of you with this extremely rare cursed item. Is like, hey, let me put you in this box real quick. Like, are you kidding me? What the? And he even says it, my eyes tell me you're Gojo. My body tells me you're Gojo. I think he said even the cursed energy, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think he said even my cursed energy tells me that you're Geto, but I know you're not. And he just stands there in disbelief. I mean, I would too.
And then that allows him to really get stuck in the, he is now like imprisoned in these like things that are like surrounding him. But the other big twist, so we have this moment that's very like heartbreaking, and you can tell like this is really just such an important thing to Gojo and has been for so long. The other big twist, as Bryan just said, like he can tell it's not him, but we're like everything's telling him it is him, but he's like it's not him. This is what I got spoiled on days before it was revealed in the anime, and if you guys have been listening in, you know I've been wondering this for a hot minute. It's okay. I'm not bitter at all. He is being controlled by something. I don't know if it's really been revealed exactly who this is, but this person's technique is that they can pass from one body to another by replacing the brain of that body with their own. He's also able to use the curse technique from that body. So this whole time, in the present timeline, this hasn't been Geto, but essentially his dead body walking around, which kind of like gives me like images. Ew.
Yeah, so providing clarity here, it has not revealed who, so don't say anything. Okay, we don't know who it is.
I don't know that. I don't know who it is, at least.
Although I guess I technically didn't know Mahito's name until pretty recently too, so...
It's actually... Fun fact, it's actually Helmo in the background. Helmo's behind all of this. But, realistically, right, to think when he reveals those stitches, oh, that was perfect. And the little mouth on the brain, oh... Like, this was giving my horror heart everything I need. It's almost October, folks, and they're doing this for a reason. Like, I am loving the fact that I'm getting all of, like, the dark and spooky stuff out of JJK as we move in to what is going to be the darker part of the episode, because this is only the first part of Shibuya. We are only 4 episodes in, mind you, and yet we have already had some pretty wild stuff happen. So, with that in mind, I'd like to remind you that this piece of seeing this is just step 1 of the plan.
This was a huge reveal when this happened in the manga, and now for anime only watchers as well. This is like, because I think that as much hope as Gojo clearly had in this moment, like maybe we had a little bit too, that like that he could be alive, and like if possible, then maybe Gojo could get through to him, if anybody could. And all of that hope was just like dashed in this moment as he literally like opens up his scalp to show us the brain that's inside. And this is like the first curse that we've seen operate in this way. The most similar thing we've seen so far is Yuji, who is not really the same, even though like Sukuna is like housed in his body. It's different because Yuji has agency still over himself and Geto does not. Geto is dead. And that makes this curse technique user extraordinarily cruel also, because not only are they like wreaking devastation on everything that they touch and clearly are incredibly intelligent, incredibly meticulous in what they're doing, seeing how long it's taken for just this plan to come to fruition. They're capable of persuading other curses, which is also like not something we've seen a whole lot of, except from this character who we now know was somebody that we saw in season 1. But I think the only other curses that would have listened to somebody, it would have been Sukuna. because they had to. That's the king of the curses. So, like, this is clearly, like, a very, very dangerous being, and this is going to be a hard fight. Because even Gojo's thrown off by this. Gojo's the strongest. And the cruel nature of, like, their almost chameleon ability here. Who else have they held as a host? We'll find out later. And what have they accomplished while doing that? This is a very, very dangerous curse.
Yeah, they definitely, whoever this person is, whatever they do, like, they're very smart. And I think, you know, they obviously know at least a little bit that, like, using Geto's body would probably get this kind of reaction out of Gojo, because I think he was kind of betting on Gojo to freeze when he saw him like that. And especially since he was like, he said, like, Satoru, like, nice to see you again, or however he said it, you know, long time no see. Just that whole sequence was very eerie and creepy, and also really sad, because, like, we finally have the confirmation that Geto is actually dead, which is, like, it's sad because we just spent so much time, like, seeing their past, and, like, obviously he went on that spiral and he, like, became evil at the end. Essentially, it still is like, how evil was he? Like, obviously we know that he died fighting Gojo and Yuta in JJK0, but, like, I feel like almost he could have been changed, because the real evil Geto that we know is from season 1 and from present time, where it's not even him. So, like, my brain is just like, oh my gosh, like, what could have been between the two of them? And it's just a big twist. I'm definitely interested to see more about who this person is, and more about this curse technique. I'm sure it's gonna, you know, continue to be a huge storyline within the show. I don't think he's going anywhere. But the last thing that we get, and this happened, I had a feeling something like this was going to happen. I was somewhat spoiled on this, but it was more of like I had out of context spoilers, and then everything went together. But we end the episode with Gojo Satoru has been sealed. I don't really know what to say.
Nobody does. It's been 84 years since the manga chapter. Like, still nobody knows what to say to this, because it's like, how is that possible? And him getting thrown off for that tiny moment of time was enough. Again, re-cementing that this curse technique user that is in Geto's body is incredibly dangerous. But there's another line that I think we've seen in the anime, but is definitely in the manga, that, like, so when Gojo was born, they say that the balance was thrown, because Gojo is so OP. He's the strongest, and he's like shifted the balance of the Jujutsu world and of all the powers because of how strong he is. That being said, if he's sealed, the balance is restored, but there's nobody that can fight like him. So at this point in the anime, we do not know how long he's going to be sealed, but if 1 minute was all it took for that fight and, like, to get him sealed, imagine 1 minute without him. You know what I mean? And if it's longer than that, like, this is not good. This is like not, this is probably not going to go well.
I have a prediction, because, like, I just turned 27 yesterday, which was like a real, like, oh my gosh, I'm pushing 30 feeling. And then I sat there and I was like, I bet I will see 30 before I see Gojo unsealed in the anime. That's my prediction.
No comment. I don't know nothing.
Yeah. You don't have to lie to me. You can just say no comment. I know you know.
I only have like 3 brain cells left because I'm 28. So that's what you have to look forward to. I'm 28 on Tuesday.
We're getting older. Oh no.
Being current, I mean, you could see him unsealed before 30. It's a long shot, though. It's a long shot. Don't count on it. But at this point, him being sealed, I mean, LeBron's off the court. Michael is injured. He went to go play baseball. Like, there is nothing that anyone else can do. And he's, like, trying to talk with this guy, this unknown ghetto pseudo as he is. And he's like, well, there's someone else who's, like, just like me. And he's talking about Yuta, and we flash to Yuta, and he's like, yeah, he was cool. And he's like, but it wasn't enough. Like, infinite cursed energy, sure. Like, bottomless well of cursed energy, I think is what the term was used. And being able to copy techniques, sure, it was cool, but it wasn't you, or it wasn't Geto. And so it was very interesting to see Gojo try and remain calm for the rest of his time before he did get fully sealed. And then we just kind of flash to Yuji, and all of a sudden Mekamaru is in his ear delivering the news, and he lost it. Also, I want to finally call out, because I can say this now, that in the opening, they did that to everybody. Like, the in the opening, the box, the prison realm is in the opening.
Is it?
It is.
It is.
There's a lot of stuff in that opening. There's a lot of stuff, and we can't talk about it yet because Hannah's here. Maybe we can revisit that at the end. Or maybe I will finally make a TikTok about it with a spoiler warning. Imagine that. Imagine a spoiler warning. I think there's a theme this episode.
Nani?
There's so much in the opening, though.
Oh, yeah.
They gave all of that away, but some people don't know yet. So.
But yeah, definitely a very cool piece to finally see come out. Also, I was hella excited to see the prison realm open up like that. Again, spooky horror heart of like 8 different eyes, like all staring at Gojo. Just kiss.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little bleak, and we're on episode 4 of this arc. And, like, I know very little about this arc, but I know enough to know that it's really sad, because everyone says that, and that, like, it's gonna be emotional damage. But I'm, like, now I'm, like, genuinely really nervous, because this happened so early on. Without Gojo, what is going to happen? Anyway. Everyone's gonna die. That's my prediction. Every single character.
Bye-bye.
It's actually the end of the show. Everyone's just pretending that there's more.
Oh, no. Hold on. Gege said, you think you're gonna be fine. I'll write more of this show, and then we'll make it worse. Literally.
Count your days.
We're running pretty low on time, so let's go ahead and let's move into our favorite moments. But before we do you have any final thoughts about the episode?
Just one, and it's very small, but I saw a TikTok that, like, kind of made me laugh in a sad way. Everyone's like, it's not funny, is it, Gojo? It's not funny, is it, Gojo, when you get to see your dead friend again? Because he, like, in season 1, had Yuji in that box. He, like, wheeled them up to, like, Nobara and Megami, and he's like, surprise, I'm actually alive.
Oh.
And he's like, you know what would be so funny if we did this? And now it's like, it's not so funny. It's not so funny, is it?
Oh,
so
man.
There's that. Anyway,
that's so
it's not
mean.
so funny, is it? But it kind of is.
Oh, that's mean. But yeah. Cool. Well, let's move into favorite moments. Mine was Gojo breathing. That's it. That's the tweet. I'm kidding. I will say that is, like, the highlight of the episode for me is every Gojo moment where he looks crazed and hot, and I need to stop simping. But outside of that, as sad as, like, that final, like, 5 minutes was,
You're both just like, nope.
just no. It's just not
like, no,
stop.
you don't need to stop. It's okay. We understand.
I feel like I can't forget about Gyu or Yorichi or Vanitas. Like, those are my top 3. How I feel like I'm
You feel like you're
I'm
cheating?
betraying them. I'm cheating on
No.
Anyway, we're so crazy this episode. As sad as, like, those last 5 minutes was, it revealed so much, and it definitely made me feel like the most wide range of emotions that I think I've felt this show so far. So just, like, going from the surprise of, like, as early as Gojo's doing his domain expansion all the way to the end where that final line is Gojo Satoru has been sealed. Just, like, that whole part was like, that was like 10 out of 10 anime right there. I was like, I'm so glad I watch anime.
Let's go! Oh my god. Literally, let's go. Oh my god. This show is so good, and this episode gives so many reasons to why anime is an amazing genre, filled with, as Hannah said, a wide range of emotions. my favorite moment from this episode was Gojo walking Hanami into the wall. Like, it was just such a clear demonstration of power difference. I think it kind of goes back to the previous episode where there was no trick that could fix this skill gap or this gap in power, and it became even larger this time. Like, he literally, all he needed to do was just walk. And again, like I referenced earlier, I'm going to just essentially say what I said earlier. He literally was playing with his food. Like, he literally did not care about anyone else around him. Jogo was trying to make some sort of distraction, and literally Gojo was, like, snoozing the alarm on him. It was just too funny.
That's a good moment. I think, as much as I said count your days, I think I'm going to have to throw it back to the moment where Gojo sees Geto's body for the first time and we hear the song play, because that's just devastating. And, like, our senses are so powerful. I'm sure that's amplified even more, like, for people who practice the sorcery in the show, but, like, you know, like, scent can take you back to a memory, sights can take you back, but, like, certainly sounds can as well, and, like, definitely music. I think, like, music is so powerful, and I also just loved that song as well. To hear it reprised this way was really devastating, and I think, like, very, like, hauntingly beautiful. So that's my serious answer. My less serious answer, real quick, is right before Bryan's favorite moment. As Gojo's walking over, he does this tiny little laugh. He goes, it's so fast, but it's like, oh, he's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
he's crazy. Those are mine.
We love crazy Gojo. Need more of it. Random fun fact, and this is not our Taisho secret, but did you know when Jogo was talking, I was like, I have heard this voice before, and whenever I do that, I have to look it up because I'm that person, right? It is the voice of Jigoro in Demon Slayer.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so when he was, like, going through, like, is Gojo gonna do this or that? I was like, this feels like when Jigoro is, like, talking over Zenitsu, like, trying to kill the
Bonk
spirit.
him on the head.
Yeah. It was, like, giving those feelings. Anyway, that was our first Demon Slayer reference this entire episode. And it was, of course, out of my mouth.
No, it wasn't. You just talked about Yoriichi and Giyu.
Oh, yeah. It's still out of my mouth. Speaking of Demon Slayer, now it's time for Taisho Kosokoso Wasabanashi. Did you know that... Now that I know how to say it in Japanese, I'm not going to not say it in Japanese. Did you know that this year in Japan, for the first time, they've never done this before, they have banned people. They said, no, this is not happening. You are not celebrating Halloween in Shibuya. They said, hard stop. There's no partying. There's no gatherings. There is nothing happening on Halloween in Shibuya. This year, for the first time, fishy. That's
Very
it.
fishy. Very fishy. Is it a major PR move, or are they trying to keep people safe? I don't know.
Who knows? At this
Watch
point?
them come out and then, like, drop curtains over the actual entire city. Like, at 7 p.m., everyone's just, like, walking down the street, and then all of a sudden, like, not like a magical curtain, but, like, some, like, cheap fabric curtain just drops in the middle of this street, and then all of a sudden it's, like, a bunch of Gojos just pop out of the scenes. Like, the Japanese government has been planning this for months. They were all in on it with Mappa.
So cosplayers in Japan are like the ones that I follow on Instagram and Twitter are like super super talented, and if some of them like go to Shibuya on Halloween and like cosplay and take pictures, I will I will bow down to them. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Today was a pretty crazy episode, but as things heat up, I'm sure our podcast will heat up. If you liked what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop a like, and leave a comment. As always, if you leave any comments on YouTube or using the Q&A feature on Spotify, you probably will see that question answered in a future episode, so make sure you're utilizing that. We're also on Instagram and TikTok as Hashira Half Hour, and on Twitter as Hashira X. Gotta get that right. And as always, thank you so much for listening in. I have to say umai because I cannot not say umai, and honestly, the fact that you changed that while I wasn't here was a little bit offending. Again, that's a joke. I'm just sassy, okay? So, umai, but also 大丈夫だ。だって君、弱いもん。
Yo, Wimo.
Yeah, you know.
What
Was it good or was it creepy?
No, it was awesome. No notes.